And it's going. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, to your first attraction, which is the Credit Recovery Breakout. I'm Katie Bedke, and I am the Credit Recovery Mentor. So I'm glad that you were all able to join me here. And before we begin all things credit recovery, what's going on this summer for you? What's on your summer adventure or bucket list this year? Are you going anywhere new? Have some fun activities? Are you just focusing on relaxing? You can share in the chat or raise your hand and share verbally. Sometimes if you're going somewhere new, if somebody else has been there, they might be able to give you some pro tips, which is also always really helpful. Okay, awesome. So national parks, I just got back from Yosemite, which was amazing. Actually, that's my background. So I'm pretty excited about it still. All right, awesome. Oh, no doubt. Oh my gosh, that's so fun, Amber. I can't read them all. On our long road trip, I put some old jams on for my girls on a road trip. No Doubt was one of them. All right, I like the relaxing. Yes, it's been kind of a crazy year. Camping, forward. All right, yep. If you're teaching summer school, you may not get to relax fully. Yes, and camping. Oh, nice. What is the 30? I have to go back and look at that, Amanda. What is this concert ticket business in Boise? Oh my gosh.
It was okay. I'm going to tell you really fast because I didn't know about it for the past like 7 years that we've lived here. I just learned about it for this summer, but they do like this summer concert, like blowout thing for like the Ford Idaho Center and a couple of other spaces in Boise. And it's like all amazing bands, like their normal shows, but their tickets are $30. They sell out super fast, but yeah, it's like this, when it comes up next year, I'll send you the link because it blew my mind how many people were on there.
Okay, yeah, I have not heard of that, and that would be awesome. So yeah, if you live in the Boise area, or if you want to travel here and there, looks like there's a cool concert activity list. All right, yes. Oh, Candace, I need to do what you have on the list. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, I hope you all have a wonderful summer. It always goes by so fast, so I hope you are able to enjoy several days, not just one. Okay, so a little bit about me. Like I said, I am the Credit Recovery Mentor. I went to Boise State. My focus is in science, but also obviously online education. I've been teaching for 16 years, and now I'm entering my 4th grade year here at IDLA. I started teaching IDLA when my girls were born, my twins, and they're going into the 4th grade. So now I just have my year associated with them. So 4th grade, here we go. I teach most of the IDLA secondary programs, so Flex Cohort and Credit Recovery, and I have a special place in my heart for Credit Recovery. It's a different challenge. You employ different tactics to support and encourage students. So if you haven't taught Credit Recovery yet, it's similar to Cohort, but there's a few bumps along the way and some detours. So it's just learning new tricks. Okay. Our objectives for this session is just to review credit recovery, especially if you have not taught credit recovery before and you have a summer course coming up next week. Just to go over the key requirements, the new features that you should expect with the Buzz LMS transition. And I will say it's a dreamboat for credit recovery, so be excited about it. And then we'll discuss a few things about summer credit recovery courses. They are a little different from our regularly cohort or our regular fall and spring sessions. And then also I'll just highlight some of the support resources that are available to you. Okay, so to begin with, let's go over the basics of our credit recovery ride. The credit recovery courses are all built off of the cohort courses. So you'll still have the 8 units, but it's condensed. So instead of all the assignments have been taken out, students are going to be completing the lessons as well as the end of unit assessments. Each unit will take 1 week of the course. And then the 9th week is called a catch-up week, where students can work on any missing work and make sure they have everything completed. Extensions are also available to students as well, but credit recovery courses are 9 weeks in length. 1 week per unit and then a catch-up week. All 8 end of unit exams or projects must be completed to pass the course. There is not a final exam. You're just focusing on making sure students complete those end of unit assessments. A big difference with credit recovery is that you're taking attendance. So you're tracking that by progress. And I'll go over a few items on that. The majority of the assignments, like I said, are course arc auto-graded lessons. So if you've taught middle school classes, you would have seen that the grade book is, those grades are captured. Oh, thanks, Tom. So those grades are going to be captured by students navigating through the lesson packages. And then, so it's similar to that and your cohort end of unit assessment. So you're going to be shifting a lot of your time from grading to supporting and communicating with students, parents, schools, and so on. So it's still about the same amount of work. You're just shifting what that work looks like. These students may have higher needs and require more support. So in order to be in a credit recovery course, you have failed the course in the past or you were unsuccessful either in this course, in other aspects of schooling, or you might have some barriers in your personal life that would then put you in a credit recovery course. So just kind of a heads up on that aspect. Like I said, course completion requirements, students must take all of those end of unit exams or projects. If they miss one of those, then a 10% is reported as the final grade. So that's what you're looking for in both Schoology. So the majority of our credit recovery courses this summer is still operating in Schoology. We just have a few that will be in Buzz. And then starting fall 2026, everybody will be in Buzz. And you would be able to filter your gradebook really easily to see who is missing those end of unit assessments. I have a couple of screenshots. So one is just showing kind of Schoology again. You can see if a student was missing something by you marking it missing. And then in Buzz, you can have the same process of filtering your gradebook and seeing who has that missing icon. It might be hard to read on yours, but it is flagged with like a little exclamation point with that little black box, comment box. So as we think about transitioning to Buzz, the program requirements are going to remain the same. Students still need to complete all of those end of course or end of unit assessments, but you should expect to see the feel, the look, the workflow is somewhat changing when you go to Buzz, and it's for the best. I know if you've taught credit recovery, progress monitoring for attendance can be a challenge, and it is so much easier in Buzz. So it's a huge win. A few other changes will be that you'll see there's auto-populated zeros if a student does not complete a lesson or a test. So you're not marking those. It will just automatically happen. You will be marking missing for just the end of unit assessments. The units are gated, and I'll explore that more in a little bit, but that just means that students can work at their own pace, and you don't need to be going in and individually assigning different units to this student and not that one. They can work at their own pace, so it's pretty nice that way. And then Buzz offers streamlined grading and individualized feedback, better options. It's more efficient, I think, on my end. There's just more capability, especially with voice and audio feedback. Okay, so when you're thinking about taking attendance or tracking progress in attendance, it's the same in both Schoology and Buzz. You're looking to see if a student has made progress in the course for that day. And typically it's Monday through Friday. If a school has only a Monday through Thursday schedule, then you're only taking attendance for that student Monday through Thursday. And that's going to be several of our students in that most of the state is now on a 4-day school week. The purpose of attendance is to help students stay on track and be accountable. It is not to penalize them for anything. It's helping them as like a communicative tool to know if they're on track, if they're making progress, and it tells, parents and schools, what they are doing in the course. So it could be that they're attending the class every day, but they have a low grade because they are not completing the lessons fully, or maybe they're not reviewing the content before they take their exam. So it's just a good indicator of how they're working through the course. Again, attendance is based on completing something in the course. It could be the current lesson that's due, or it could be a past lesson that they have missed or they want to reattempt. So that's where it gets a little tricky, is when students fall behind. They may never be on track with your assigned due dates. And so it's your responsibility to figure out a way to monitor and catch when those students may have worked on a past lesson. Students can also work ahead and be counted present for future days. So they could complete all of Unit 1 and Unit 2 in the first week of school, and then the next week, maybe they're absent. And they wouldn't be marked absent for IDLA because they're on track with the due dates. So just keep that in mind. Now, when we're going to Buzz, this is the great part with monitoring student activity and progress. When you look in the gradebook, you can see their last login. When you go to the individual student, you can see exactly what pages they visited, what time, and what day. This is not a feature that we have in Schoology. So you should have a big sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to guess if they were in the course or not. It's right there. It's like a dream boat. I just love it. It took so much kind of stress off of me, knowing that I could say, nope, for sure, this is what happened that day. So I'm just going to quickly go over an example. And really, it will come down to you being in the course, to have it all click and see it yourself. But let's pretend that today is May 28th, and I'm going to take attendance for the previous day, which is May 27th. In my grade book, I can set up the due dates for all assignments and lessons when they are due. And I recommend doing that for all of your courses, whether it's credit recovery, cohort, flex, have that due date. And so I'm going to look at yesterday's date, 5/27, and I'm just going to quickly scan and say, oh, everybody has it done except for this student. What was Katie doing that day? Because she has a 0. So the grade will automatically update once the student goes there. Remember that whole, like, the 1 out of 30 points because they clicked on the first page. That's going to change. So if I see a 0, they were not in that lesson. I'm going to go over, and I see the last login was the 27th. Now, something to keep in mind is this last login is just for Buzz, not the course. So it's not course specific. It's only for Buzz logging in. So I would click on the student's name, and then I could see, oh, Katie actually was not in the course on the 27th. She hasn't been in there since May 7th. So she is absent. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, so similar to logging into Schoology, like you could see when they did that, but not necessarily into your course. Let me go back to the chat. I might be missing stuff. Okay. The other part, so you can look at the activity this way. You can also just look when they click on the student. Let me go back one more. Okay, so when I first go into the student, it will just pull up their grades. I clicked over here on the activity bar. It will show all of their assignments and grades and their submitted date. And so you could also see if a student went back and they've been reattempting items to earn a higher grade. It's going to update the submitted date for the last time they had a grade change on that lesson or test or whatever it may be. So that's really nice too, because you'll be able to see if a student, you're like, well, I see that they have been in the course, but I'm not totally sure what they're working on. This might be a quicker view for you to just analyze and also communicate with the student, like, hey, nice job going back and getting full points on that lesson, or also tell the parents and site coordinator what you're seeing with that student. So again, the data tracking piece for Buzz is just, I wish everybody was in it this summer if you're teaching credit recovery. So hang in there. You'll get through the summer, and then fall credit recovery courses, it will just be a dreamboat because of this. This is kind of the sticky point of credit recovery. And it's basically kind of fixed with Buzz. I have some more links for progress monitoring and attendance. I would say be flexible, work on communication, let students know the expectations. You're coming from like a supportive role. We're not trying to penalize students, so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. There might be some barrier that the student is facing, and that's why they're not in the course. So just kind of help encourage them along the way. Just a reminder, be lenient with attendance the first week of the course. Sometimes students are not aware that they had the course or that they were enrolled in the course, or they're having issues with technology. So that first week, you're just trying to get to know each student, let them know the expectations, how they would be marked, what you're looking for attendance, and so on. And then there's also no attendance that last week of the course too. So the first and last week, you're pretty lenient. Also, summer gets a little wonky in that students do not have the structure of school anymore. Or they might be going on vacations, or they're working. There's so many other things that pop up along the way. So just be flexible with yourself as well as the students, especially in Schoology, because it's not that straightforward as far as monitoring progress. I do have a few links just to the knowledge base. You can check that out just as a review. Nothing has really changed. There's a few updates for Buzz that you'll see kind of down here. And I also have, if you were with me this last year, I shared a template for taking attendance. I've updated that for Buzz if you would like to use that. There's some more automations though on this, and I do have a video that walks you through this. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I do think it's helpful to have some sort of tracking system, even if it's just notes about the student, when they're going to be, like if they're off the first week. This is really handy during spring break, because each school has a different week that they have spring break. It's kind of chaos tracking all of that. Or if they have Fridays off, you can kind of have your reminder to blur out those Fridays for those students, and so on. Or just little notes, like sometimes with the attendance, if a student has been struggling, you can make little deals like, hey, if you can get caught up to where we're at right now over the next week, I can excuse some of those absences. And this is just a good way to keep track of all of your little notes. So yes, I do have a template. It should be on here too. So I can send you one that is more for Schoology. This new template is going to be more Buzz based. And on that knowledge base article, you can make a copy here. It will force you to make a copy. And then I also can send you the old version too. So just send me an email. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the other cool feature about Buzz is that we'll have zeros auto-populate after the due date. Now, with that said, it may take 24 to 48 hours. I haven't figured out, like some students automatically get a 0, and others it would wait almost like 36 to 48 hours to have that 0. But you don't have to worry about putting zeros in. The only time that you will put missing is on the end of unit assessments. So that's the one assignment that you will be marking missing. It will still have the auto 0 go in. So, most of our end of unit assessments are due on Fridays, Thursdays, or Fridays. And so you'll go in on Monday and you'll go through and mark this column missing for the students that had not finished that yet. So that's kind of handy in that you don't have to be manipulating your gradebook every single day like you did in Schoology. Again, the missing only goes to those required end of unit exams and projects that will also show up on our Clarity report. That's also helpful for this new feature, which is also great. All the units will be gated in Buzz. So you do not need to go in and have like the publish start date for your units. They are gated, which means that a student will get access to the next unit once they complete the required end of unit exam or project. So they cannot go forward unless they complete it. Now, some students might game it and they'll like just put in like a random word or letter, like N. I had a student do this last semester. And then once they submit something, the next one unlocks. So by putting a missing on that assignment with a retry, it locks it again. So that's just kind of a handy tool. This is also really helpful for students that are working through the course quickly and want to finish early, which will be really helpful for our summer classes as well, for those schools that have the summer credit recovery where they just have like a week to complete it. So that's a really awesome feature. It's been really nice and handy. Oh, let's see, okay. And the last thing about Buzz is, like I said, there's just more streamlined grading and feedback. So everything comes to your inbox that you need to grade. You can still go into the individual lessons and make comments, but all of those end of unit assessments will go to your needs grading, and then you have more feedback options. I was just going to show you so you can see it. So here's my sandbox course, and I'm in as a, let me go to my teacher. So whenever you go into Buzz, you can just go to your needs grading, and everything will just be there on the side. If you have more than one course, it's all going to be lumped together, all in one spot. And then you'll have areas where you leave your feedback. There's templates, which I know there's some breakouts that will go over these tips and tricks. And so it's just really nice and handy to grade within Buzz. Jennifer, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much. I was curious about the gating with assigning assignments missing. So are you saying that if they miss like lesson 2 in unit 1 and they skip that, or they skip that and they go on to something else, if I mark that lesson 2 missing, what will it close?
So the way that the courses have been set up, sometimes I feel like it's easier to see an example. It's only the end of unit tests that have that gating that will have the unlock button. It's not the lessons. It's the end of unit assessment. So let me go in. I'm the only student in this course right now, and I know that's probably really hard to see. So you can see, like, I have a lot of zeros, didn't do the best. Turned in. So once I turned in my assignment, you can see that I turned it in. That's like your indicator as a teacher. They're like, oh, they did submit something there. I have to go to my needs grading to get it. But let's say, so then that unlocked unit 4.
Okay.
You as a teacher are only going to put missing for these end of unit assessments if they're not completed.
So if I open up their unit 3 assessment and they just typed the letter N for a couple things, then I can go back and mark it missing.
Right.
And that will lock out unit 4 and 5 and whatever?
Yes. Yep. And so it is set up where unit 3 unlocks unit 4, unit 4 unlocks unit 5. Like, they have to do it in order. There are some instances though, like, so this class is physical science, which students have a Rube Goldberg machine project, which they struggle with, or some students do. Some site coordinators will have asked, can they just skip that for now, this end of unit assessment, and they'll come back to it later. So if you get site coordinator approval, you can let them continue on in the course, and then they just have to make sure to come back to that end of unit assessment they did skip.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Okay, let's see. Where did I end up? Oh, and we'll go over some summer credit recovery, little off-roading adventure that we take. Just because, again, there isn't the structure of the school schedule for students, and this can present different challenges to some. And so, again, just be flexible with your attendance. You might have more interventions with pacing. You may have students that are on vacation, or they're working, or they have camps, and you just work with students individually in those situations when they'll be gone. You might have a school that requests all of the units be opened for a student. So for that school and student, you are allowed in the summer for Schoology to open all of those units. In Buzz, it will not be a problem, because once a student completes a unit, the next one unlocks just automatically, unlike in Schoology. So that's a completely fine request, so you may do that. And then if a student finishes the course early in the summer, you can post their grade once they finish all the requirements. I typically just check in with the student to make sure that they are done and they didn't want to work on anything else before I post that grade once they have everything in. Is there any questions right now about summer credit recovery? I know it hasn't started yet, so you may not have all your questions. I feel like there's always something new that comes up in our summer courses. And if something does come up next week, just reach out. Okay, and then here's some support resources. Of course, always reach out to me. You can call, text, email. We have summer office hours this year. And I'll just show you the schedule. It's in the summer conference package, but each day there's about an hour. The teachers will be in these rooms. I'm scheduled for Wednesdays, but on these other days, there's other teachers that can help out as well. So you would just click on the link and it'll show you, like it will take you to that office hour Google Meet. So you can pop in anytime. And then right now we are still operating with that PLC group in Schoology. In the fall, this will be shifting more to the newsletter format, and then we'll incorporate things in the Just-in-Times. But just this will be still active this summer, since most of our credit recovery courses will still be in Schoology. And then our knowledge base has a lot of resources as well. It's under construction. So if you're like, where is that one thing and you can't find it, let me know and I can try and hunt it down. We're in that like weird transition where Schoology is still going, Buzz is here, and how do we make it all make sense? So it might be a little clunky right now. And then the other thing, you can utilize your sandbox course. So I'm going to show you, where did I put my thing? There we go. When you're in Buzz, you have a sandbox that says cohort. But be aware that this also has 2 units that are like credit recovery. If you scroll down to unit 7 and 8, these 2 units, 7 and 8, are operating like credit recovery. So you'll see those auto course arc pass back grades going to the grade book. And so you can just kind of play around with that. That's how I learn quite a bit, is I like to just go tinker around as a student. So you go to your student account and go to that course. And you can just kind of play around and see what happens as you click on things from the student side and then switch over to your teacher side and so on. So I think that's always handy, just to kind of see what students will feel, what it looks like for you as you're monitoring a student. Okay, I think that is all the information. Hopefully you were able to grab some thrills along the way on our credit recovery ride. If you have any questions, please let me know. We can go over anything, either about our Schoology credit recovery that's still operating, or if you're piloting a Buzz course, ask away. Or you can also share what's been your hardest part of credit recovery, or the part that you love, which there should probably be a little bit of both, right? There's some things that, ugh. Oh, thank you so much for mentioning that, Cindy. Yes, so site coordinators have the ability to go in. So let's say I marked a student absent like 3 days last week. The site coordinators, they'll have more information, and sometimes they do not share that with us, like, oh, actually they were sick all last week, and they can go into the SIS and they would excuse those absences. You would be able to see that when you go into your roster. I can't go just because of student privacy. If you go into the SIS and click on the student at the very bottom, you'll see a whole list of their absences, and if you load your data where it shows all, you'll actually be able to see which ones were excused. And so you'll see that often. That's not a problem. That's why I actually track attendance on a sheet. So like, let's say student B, I see that they have 6 absences, but I haven't seen a single SIS email come through that they were notified. That might be, so I'm like, oh, I'll go check the SIS, and maybe the site coordinator excused 5 of those. It's just a good awareness item, because then you'll know something else is going on with the student. You might want to check in with the site coordinator that maybe you need to be aware of something, and so on. So that's why I track those. Let's see. Yes, I agree, Jennifer. Like, I feel like I get to know these students more just because you're checking in with them more. It's always great when you're able to get phone number for the student so you can send those text messages. And yes, attendance is the hardest part. It is night and day when you get to buzz. Like, you'll be like, attendance, what? It's not even a problem. Like, that will be the least of your worries. I'm letting you know. You'll be like, I don't know what the big deal is because of buzz having that data. Yeah, so Allison, you know, with attendance, you just want to make sure that you're doing it really close to when they are absent. So then on Friday, they don't get hit with 3 absences from like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But I am with you. I do a little flexibility sometimes. I'm like, you know, Monday, especially in my class, I have a few, I don't know what that beep was. Anyway, I might give them a freebie sometimes. If they've been working consistently and they're off one day, you know, usually that's like they must have been sick, or I kind of give them some leniency or check in and just see what's going on. So those are all things that you can do. Yes, so it is the 12th absence. I should actually double check that. Why am I like, what is it? When they hit 12, they should be dropped. And then they'll start getting reminders. And oftentimes I have, and read like the IEPs carefully too. Sometimes, what does extra time mean? I would check in with the case manager because that would go into attendance. So each student's going to be a little different. Again, the purpose of attendance is not to penalize students. It's like an awareness item for all of us that the student might need more support or help if they're accruing a lot of absences. It's not a get you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Charlie, that's a really great question about communicating with parents and students. So, and everybody, I hope if you have ideas, please chime in as well. This is just kind of my standard practice. I send whole class emails to everybody. And then on the side, I do individualized, more like calls and texts. You kind of determine, you figure out what or how parents like to communicate, or students. Some like email more than text or phone calls. So you kind of figure that out, and you can even ask that. I know some teachers like to do group text messages with the student and parent. I personally, I do just a text to the student and a separate one to the parent, unless it gets to like a situation where like I want them to be lumped together. That's just my way of building relationship and rapport with the student, because I'm communicating them in a different fashion instead of just sending them an update about their grade. So it's just that tone kind of looks a little different, I think, between students and parents. Parents, I might be a little bit more to the point on how their child is doing. Students would be more encouraging. So that's why I break it up that way. If you have younger students, you know, they may not have a cell phone. So you'd be operating through like email and text with that parent. Yeah, Amanda?
One thing that I have found to be really nice from the parent side that I've started incorporating in my communication is like the very first line in the email, just saying who this email is going to. So like if it's a whole class, I'll say this email is going to all students in my whatever, you know, English 8B credit recovery course, or this email is going to site coordinators, parents, and students. And that's usually just like a quick reminder of something really important if I was going to send it to everybody. But I feel like that's been really nice. I had one of my daughter's teachers that did that, and it just made a really like nice like thread of communication to be like, hey, Ella, did you check your email? Like your teacher emailed us. And like that was really nice. So I started doing that. I don't know if parents like it. I haven't gotten feedback specifically about that, but as a parent, it was nice. So
yeah, I guess I do something similar. Sometimes I say like, hi students, you know, like more broad in my general class, and then individual, it's like specific student's name. And I do think parents appreciate that, as well as students. That you can tell when they're like, they read the emails or see them. They're like, oh, you kind of see more activity on those days, is what I've noticed. And then if you don't see like any activity from those emails, that's when like calls and texts and other things, use those other resources. Calling the site coordinator and checking in with them. Our regional support team is really helpful too if you're just not getting through to a school or just, having challenges that way, especially in the summer. They can be a good resource that way. Oh, I love that, Christina. Yes, add credit recovery. Paul, you'll love Buzz. Yeah, Amanda.
Another thing regarding communication that has been helpful is when we post an update, at least in Schoology, it goes out via email too to let the students know, like Mrs. Swanson posted an update in whichever course. And sometimes my update is literally just to read the most recent email that I sent you, because I think kids get so like inundated with emails sometimes that they rely on that landing page when they log in to see all of our teacher updates, and then they'll go check their email. Same thing. This is like another thing I've had to do with my daughter. Like, have you checked your email? And she's like, no. I'm like, your teachers are trying to talk to you that way. So yeah.
No, it's like doing all the tricks. Ginny, yes. So you're still operating the same way with updates in your Schoology class. I appreciate you asked that question too, because I did not discuss that with Buzz. So in Buzz, instead of updates, you have teacher tips pages. I'll show you. Still kind of trying to work mine out. Sorry, there we go. Activities. So here is one of the classes from this last school year. You have teacher tips pages where basically it's like putting all your updates on that page, and you can put videos. So on my updates for this course, I do a lot of lesson help videos where I'm navigating through the lesson with students because there's a lot of calculations and formulas and so on. So that would be the difference with Schoology and Buzz. Schoology, you're still posting your updates. In Buzz, you'll have teacher tips pages that you can utilize. There's also, and this will be, like we're going to have so many trainings about this. So I didn't go over all the features, but since you're in here, there's announcements too that you can send, which is kind of like, it's just an announcement in the course. The unfortunate part about this is it's not emailed to students. So they would just have to look up and see that indicator in their course with the 3, and then they can go read that message that I had. Oh yeah, so there's different strategies. I try to do it. I think I've tried to do a lot of different things with like logging all of your communication. So the one thing is all emails go through the SIS. If I have a long strand of emails with a parent and a student, or whoever it is, like 26 between us in my IDEA Gmail, I'll go make a note of that. So I know some teachers just like once a week, they'll go back through all their communication and log it. Some teachers do once a day. I try and do it in real time, and then I log my texts that I'm sending for each student as I go, just because I may forget with all the other things that are happening. So to kind of see what works best for you. If you should be using Google Voice. So you would be able to like see your log from the week and go in and, if you want to do it on Fridays or something, go in and make a note. Oh yeah, Candace, that's a good idea. Use a doc or a spreadsheet. And then I'm curious, Candace, do you just link that in the notes? So it's kind of like everybody, or when you log it in your SIS, in the SIS. Yeah, I think there isn't like, it's figuring out. Okay, so like what works best for you. I also have like a lot of docs, like where I have my standard message and then I can copy and paste it into the text box for my Google Voice and then just change the student's name. And so just helping efficiencies that way. Or you can also use your Google Voice. You're like, I know I sent somebody a text similar to this one. If you just go up in your search bar and be like, halfway through the course, that's like one that I always send. It will populate all the text messages that kind of have those words. And then I can kind of grab the ones that I think would work for that day or that time. Okay, I put up my contact information as well. Again, so you can call, text anytime, email me. Like I said, we have PD office hours this summer. I'll be in the room on Wednesdays at 10, but again, all the other teachers are familiar with credit recovery, so you can ask them questions too if a different day works better. And then you can also schedule a time with me on my appointment calendar. I will say though, you can just call or text me that like, hey, can you meet in like 30 minutes? And I'm available. So just reach out. I'm not that strict with my appointment calendar. This is primarily set up when I had a lot of flex kids doing discussions, is when I use that, but it still works for you all. And I think that is it. If there's any other questions, just let me know. I'm going to stop the recording as well, but you can definitely stay in the room and ask away or just chit chat. Okay. I always get worried I'm going to